If you're at all familiar with the regular SAT or other subject tests, this video will be kind of a review for you, at least in part. But if you don't, let's just make sure we understand how the test is scored. So if you get a question right, you get 1 point. You get 1 point of your raw score. If you get a question wrong, not only do you get no credit, which is what you would expect, but you actually get an extra quarter point off. And then if you omit, you get nothing. You get no points off, you get no credit, or no points off at all. So the question is, when do you guess? Since there's this -1/4 penalty, when should we guess? Should we just only put down an answer if we know it? Should we always leave it blank? Should we always guess? It depends. Guessing is not so much of a big deal on the math, because most of the time either you know it or you don't, so you can't get any choices. But you should guess if you can eliminate at least 2 choices. So let's say it's a question where you have to evaluate a graph or something, and you're able to, just based off of certain reasons, get rid of 2 of the choices. And that's all you can get rid of, so you're down to 3. Or let's say you can get rid of 3 choices, you're down to 2. In those situations, you should guess. Be aggressive. It's worth it if you look at the math. Otherwise, if you can't eliminate any choices, so let's say you can't get rid of any of the 5, definitely want to omit. If you can only get rid of 1, even though technically there's a small percentage advantage guessing there, I don't recommend it. Only guess when you're down to 2 choices or you're down to 3. Some information about the tests themselves. This data is a bit old, but as we'll see in a second, it's pretty accurate. This is the number of students that took it over I don't know the exact year period, I couldn't find it, but this is over a number of years or a number of test settings. This is the number of students that took the test, and this is the range of the averages. Now, the averages, though, I think are a bit higher than what this reports. The average that I've been seeing for the math level 1s is more about kind of mid 600s. And the math level 2, I've seen high 600s and even low 600s and even low 700s. So as you can see, the average for this test is much different than it is for the SAT 1, where it's about a 500. So if you're not getting, especially for the math 2, if you're not getting 700 plus, it's probably not as good as you might think. So just keep that in mind, that the averages are pretty high. In fact, 20% thereabouts of the students who take math 2 get an 800. I think, again, the students who are taking this is a self-selected population. It's students who are, stronger students, so they're going to take these tests and therefore score generally higher than the average. But nonetheless, there's still quite a bit of competition in these. So just keep that in mind when you're preparing for these tests, that you need to score pretty well for it to really stand out. So let's just take a look at a couple of scoring curves. This is from one of the practice tests in the Blue Book. This is for Math 1. Notice, as I mentioned in a previous video, the drop-off is pretty quick. So as soon as you get a question wrong, you're already out of 800. But there is a decent amount of room in the 700s, which is great. But still, these can add up quickly. If you get 5, 6, 7 wrong with the -1/4, you're already trending down into the lower 700s. So just keep that in mind. Curve is a bit less generous compared to the Math Level 2. So as you can see here, you could get around 6 to 7 wrong / combination of wrong and omit and still get an 800, at least on this setting. And then the curve drops off relatively quickly. So you can still get quite a few wrong and do well, but again, just keep that in mind. You don't want to play with fire too much by skipping a lot of questions or making a lot of guesses. You still got to be pretty accurate in the end to get a strong score. But just keep in mind that this is what the scoring curve looks like. All right, that's it for grading and scoring. Let's move on to the next video, where we look at the actual topic breakdown for the 2 tests.